You are Locked On Fantasy Basketball, your daily fantasy basketball podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd and I am the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com and at Yahoo Sports Australia, and you can find me on Twitter as always at redrock_bball and on Instagram at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. We are here today to do a buy low mini show, delayed one day because yesterday we had the charity relief stream question and answer, which was really successful and raised about, at this point, still waiting for the final numbers to come in, about $2,000. So that was fantastic news from everybody who contributed and participated as well. But what we're doing in today's show is looking at players who might be buy lows. Michael Bolton.
Let's get to it.
Let's get to it indeed. All right, the buy low guys, when we look at, again, these are not players that you need to necessarily always be going out of your way to get, because if you're dead set, laser focused in, as Woj would say, on getting these guys, you're probably going to end up overpaying. They're guys you can inquire about. If you get them at a discount, great. If it's not a discount, then don't worry about it. That's the way that you win at buy low. So the first guy I want to talk about is Deandre Ayton of the Phoenix Suns, who has come back from his suspension, come back from his ankle sprain, and is the 64th ranked player over the last 5 games. That's not that good. This is a guy that we thought could be a top 25 guy, maybe push into the top 20 this season, push up to 20 and 10, still have issues with his defensive stats, his threes, his assists, all that sort of stuff. But it hasn't even been that good. 14 and 12. On 53% shooting, really low usage, doesn't get to the free throw line at all. The 4 blocks in that opener, they seem like a distant memory. Doesn't get steals or assists or hit threes, playing out of position, but he's going to get better from here. Now, will he start blocking shots? Probably not. Steals, no. Assists, no. Threes, no. Free throws, maybe not. But I think we're going to see more of this scoring. The 12 rebounds is nice. The 32 minutes I think will go up, and we'll go from 14 points maybe to 18 points, maybe to 19 points. But I'm pretty convinced that Ayton can be better than what we've seen so far. The frustration with him is palpable. With the Suns, it's palpable. And I think you can get him at a little bit of a discount at this point. It might not be a huge one, but I reckon if we're aiming for him to be a top 40 guy, I think you can trade away a guy outside of the top 50 in order to get him. And I'd be looking to do that with someone like Ayton, who I think can be significantly better. Although, my hopes for him moving forward aren't necessarily all that high as a long-term elite type prospect. I think I had him 3rd in that draft, and I think if I redrafted it today, I'd have him 4th at this stage, and I'll have to look into it further, maybe even further down. He just has not impressed me massively, but he can be better in terms of putting up counting stats. Al Horford, the next guy I want to talk about, who over the last 2 weeks is the 199th ranked player, averaging 8 points per game. It's not just the fact that he's averaging 8 points per game that has him down this low. He's getting half a steal, 0.3 blocks, 36% shooting, 5 rebounds, 1.3 triples. Almost every number, apart from the 100% free throw shooting, is down. He's still playing 32 minutes a night, but if we are under the impression that we should be, that Al Horford won't shoot 36% and he won't average 0.3 blocks, then we know these numbers are going to rise. He's the 78th ranked player over the course of the season. I think he can actually probably be better than that marginally as we move forward. Now, he was never going to be as good as he was in Boston. I think that was clear, and we've seen that play out. But this is definitely on the way, way lower end of what Horford produces, because he's just not this bad of a shooter or a defensive player or a statistical producer. He will be better than this, so I would look, if someone's frustrated with him, and then some people will drop him, there's no doubt about that, but you can get him for players at the back end of your roster. Talk about this guy quite a bit, CJ McCollum, who is in a little bit of a slump, 115th over the last 2 weeks, averaging still 20 points per game, but only 73 from the line, 0.7 steals, hasn't blocked a shot, which was one of those weird things at the beginning of the season, which he was like at 1.1 blocks a game in a little stretch of time there, which was really elevating his number. With that disappearing, the threes under 2 a game, the free throws not being hit or even not even being attempted in huge volume is really impacting his overall numbers. He's the 53rd ranked player over the course of the season. I think you should be viewing him as like a top 75, top 70 guy, but this is an opportunity for McCollum to get him at a low point in his value, because there will be some blocks that come back. We'll get more threes come back as well. We'll get a higher free throw percentage. It is just a little bit of a slump stage, and he is well known for that. This is a weird one. I didn't really expect to be talking about Spencer Dinwiddie on a buy low segment because we know how well he's been playing for Kyrie Irving, and Kyrie could come back at any time and hurt his value. But over the last 2 weeks, Dinwiddie's the 269th ranked player. Kyrie coming back's not going to hurt it that much. He is in real trouble here because of the efficiency. Horrible free throw percentage. 67% on 9 attempts is a disaster. 36% from the field on 19 attempts is also a disaster. Those two categories have Z scores of over -3. They are massive, massive problems. Now, he's still averaging 21 and 6, but only 1.6 threes. This is a guy that struggled significantly with percentages throughout his career, hitting only 22% of his threes. He's not a good shooter. No matter what you talk about him and how good he can be, he's not a good shooter. And it's impacting him. Now, I worry about what is going to happen with Kyrie this season. I don't even know if he's going to come back. I have doubt that he's going to come back. So while Dinwiddie was that weird, hey, he's going to be a sell high because Kyrie is going to come back, and then we just don't know when Kyrie is coming back, so you ride Dinwiddie until the wheels fall off. It's gone way in the other direction, and he is struggling at the moment, and he'll be better than this. He's a better free throw shooter than this, I know that. Field goal percentage, marginally better, but his numbers can jump up. He's been quite destructive. Just 0.3 steals per game as well is not a good number. Next guy we look at, Tobias Harris, whose defensive numbers are absolutely non-existent at the moment. Toby is the 97th ranked player over the last 2 weeks, 55th over the season, but 0.2 steals and 0.2 blocks in his last 6 games. He's giving you only 2 assists a game. 18 and 5 is okay, but it's just okay. Like, it's not great. There were some numbers earlier in the season where he was putting up some pretty good defensive stats, at least for him. But this is part of the reason in the offseason I said it, and people criticized me for saying it. I said he's just boring. Like, he's just a boring fantasy player because he comes out to give you 18 points, he gives you 6 rebounds, he gives you no defensive numbers, no assists, thoroughly average percentages, and it just doesn't get you interested. He was like rated ridiculous, I think in the 30s on ESPN for pre-draft rankings, and 40th or 50th on Yahoo, which I thought was too high. I also think that what he's doing at the moment, there'll be a little bit more coming defensive-wise from Harris than what we're seeing now, making him a bit of a buy low, but I wouldn't be buying into him as being that guy who would live up to those sort of pre-draft rankings. Next guy, Marvin Bagley. Like Deandre Ayton, I don't really particularly like this guy as a player. I think I had him 7th on my draft board coming into that season, and over the last, since he's returned, it's only been the one game in the last 2 weeks that he's played. He's the 91st ranked player. But that's only that one game, and it was only 20 minutes that he played. I'm more interested in the fact that he's 167th over the course of the season, and I think he can be better than that. I don't know when he's coming back from this foot injury. I don't think that he's a really good player, but I do think that he can score better than he has. He can rebound at a strong rate. He can get his block rate at a decent level, but like Ayton, the assists, the steals, the threes are all worries, and he doesn't hit free throws also. But he is still, to me, a buy low guy at this point, just because the narrative around him, the injury news around him is not great. You might be able to grab him off the waiver wire. That's pretty much what I'm telling you here. If he's there, you grab him. Or just throw your worst player at him and see if you can acquire him in that sort of a situation. Rudy Gobert, the blocks haven't been great for Gobert this season. Definitely not at his usual level. But the 81st ranked player over the last 2 weeks is not indicative of who he is. Only 1.3 blocks in that time with 12 points and 15 boards. 55% from the line is also holding him back in a pretty big way. He's still only averaging 1.8 blocks this season, which when a guy averages 2.3, 2.3, 2.6 is a significant disappointment. And it's a big drop in overall ranking values. 41st this season, despite averaging more rebounds per game. Not surprising given Derek Favors isn't there, but his scoring has gone down as well, which again, not a surprise given the addition of Conley, who we thought we'd do more, but Bojan Bogdanovic as well. But it's these blocks that's really the concern here for Gobert and why he can't get them. I do think that it will go up from what we've seen. He's at 2.1 over the last 2 months, but only 1.3 over the last 2 weeks. So get that back up to 1.8 or 2 blocks per game, and then he jumps back into the top 50 pretty quickly and pretty comfortably. Russell Westbrook, quite a few names on this list I didn't think I'd be having as buy lows, but over the last 2 weeks, Westbrook's the 76th ranked player. He's shooting 80% from the line, so that's fine, but only 1.3 steals, only 5.8 assists, only 7.8 rebounds, 40% from the field. Now, I'm not expecting him to be a good shooter, but I am expecting more than 6 assists or more than 8 rebounds a game in general from Westbrook. He has taken some steps back. It's not the minutes because he's playing 37 minutes a night during those 4 games that he's played. But it's those stats that you rely on. Him getting close to 2 steals. Him averaging that triple-double over the last couple of seasons. Of course, that's not going to happen this season. But there is still hope that you can look at these numbers and expect him to be better. He's averaging 8 boards and 7 rebounds for the season. 1.6 steals for the season as well. And 43% from the field. He's also hitting over 1 3 a game during the season. And during those 4 games, he's hit only two threes. 1 3. No, only 1 3 in the last 4 games. So that is, I'm sorry for that poor miscalculation. So that has got to improve. Those numbers will improve. He's not a great 3-point shooter, but the volume will go up a little bit from where it is. So I think he's a bit of a buy low. And the last guy we talk about is Jim Butler.
Because he's my Butler.
Butler has been dealing with an injury. He's likely to return today with a back issue. But still, over these last 2 weeks, he's the 55th ranked player. 36 minutes a night, so that's not a problem. 39% shooting is. 9 boards, 6.5 assists. He has not hit a 3 in the last 5 games. Now, he's not a great 3-point shooter, but he's definitely better than that. He hasn't attempted all that many, only 4 threes attempted in 5 games. 39% shooting, hasn't hit a 3. But everything else is in line there for Butler. So he can be better. He's also only at 80% from the line, which is still really good. But this is a guy that can be 85 or 86% from the line, which would further boost his overall value. So I think he's a little bit of a buy low at the moment. Butler is the 17th ranked player on the season. You should be viewing him as a top 20 guy. And if you can get him back for a price that doesn't include a top 20 player, then I think you are doing pretty well. That'll do it for my buy low show. To be back later today to recap Wednesday's games. Then tomorrow we'll have a sell high podcast. We might even sneak another mini show in to release over the weekend. We'll see how we go. Don't forget, subscribe Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, and on YouTube. Leave a comment down below. Give me a thumbs up. Subscribe, 5-star reviews. All of that stuff is really, really helpful, guys. We are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.